Hello, thanks for joining us. My name is Adam Hillhouse, and today I am pleased to be joined by Miss E.B. Min, AIA, the San Francisco-based principal of Min Day. With a diverse background in art history and studio art, E.B. began her architectural studies as a cross-registered student at the Rhode Island School of Design. Today, E.B., along with her partner, Jeffrey Day, had a diverse practice that provides informed and flexible design solutions for a wide range of clients, sites, and projects. E.B., it's my pleasure to speak with you this morning.
Great. Thank you. My pleasure to speak with you too.
Thank you very much. To start off, what have been the challenges in starting your own practice, especially in the last few years?
Obviously the economy was a huge challenge for us. We definitely lost projects after the market crash in 2008. We had a really slow time in 2009, 2010. We're a very small practice, so it doesn't take a lot of work for us to be busy, but also if we don't have much work, then we don't have anything to do at all. But I think a bigger thing that actually has been a challenge for both me and my partner Jeff is that both of us ended up having kids almost at the same time. I had a baby in the fall of 2008, like the day before the market crashed, and then he adopted a child the same year in December 2008. So I'd say that actually has probably been the biggest challenge really in us figuring out how to still do the amount of work that we'd like to do and be as involved in our practices as we normally would like to be.
Well, as an architect with a 7-month-old baby at home, I can absolutely understand those challenges. How do you see architecture having changed in the past 5 years or so? What is your new normal?
Well, I think that architecture, at least from our end, the way that we've seen it change in the past 5 years is certainly two things. It would be, one is economy driven, because obviously the economy has changed so much in the last 5 years. And then the other thing is also obviously all the technology and advances in digital design and fabrication. And I think those have coupled together with, I would say, a sort of generational shift in architecture, where I think because of the economy, there's been a lot of much more sort of self-started entrepreneurial work that's been happening in architecture because simply there was no work or no jobs for people. So I think that's been really interesting and exciting to see. Our new normal, I'd say, though, is probably very similar to what it was like before the economy changed, because we've always been a very small practice. We've always had to run, I'd say, pretty lean in order to do what we've done. And we've always relied on a fair amount of pro bono work to keep our design interest and design agenda moving. So I don't know if it's so different in the way we are now, or it's rather maybe what we experience as our normal before everything that's happened in the last 5 years is maybe everybody else's normal as well.
Very interesting. Where do you see your practice evolving over the next 5 years?
I wish I knew. I think that what's interesting for us right now is that we are doing a lot more work that's non-residential. We definitely have enjoyed the residential, and I think we've made our name through doing residential work. We've been very fortunate to have residential clients that wanted to do a lot of experimentation. We're really open to different ideas. We're really open to exploration, and we've been very, very lucky. And I think a lot of that experimentation and thoughtfulness that we were able to bring to our residential work, we've been able to bring to, I think, commercial work and more institutional work. And we're getting to explore a little bit more of our landscape interests right now as well. So I'd say that in the next 5 years, I'd really like to see our firm project portfolio become even more diverse. And I really would love if the scale of our work would also change.
Sounds very, very exciting. Who has been influential in spurring you to start your own practice?
I'd say that going into architecture school, I always had a feeling I would have my own practice. I didn't sort of ever think of myself as being somebody who would be at a large firm. So in that way, I sort of knew that would happen. Jeff, my partner, and I have known each other since graduate school, and I know that he's also always thought he would have his own practice. And so I'd say a lot of our classmates actually, from our grad program at Berkeley, have their own practices. So I think that there's something about having your own practice that's very much in the air, and was part of our sort of architecture school culture. But beyond that, I only worked for small firms when I got out of school and before school. So I think seeing that also made it very familiar, the idea of having your own practice.
And if you had to start over, if you had to do it again, what would you do differently, or what lessons could you impart that made you successful in starting your own firm?
That's a good question. I've thought about this. The one thing I think I would have done differently is I might have gotten more actual architecture experience. Something that is a little bit unusual in my background is that even though I have a master's in architecture, I actually did not work for architects very much at all. I primarily, the bulk of my experience was actually 3 years in a design build landscape architecture firm run by Topher Delaney and Andy Cochran. And I learned a tremendous amount from them. And they've sort of formed the basis of everything I've ever done, or like the way I think about running a practice. But when I got my first architecture projects, my actual building architecture experience was pretty limited. So I'd say that at the beginning, that was a little bit tough. But I don't know if I would have done it any differently, because I think also I was so young when I started that it might have been helpful because I didn't really know what I didn't know yet. So I've seen friends of mine who stayed in firms much longer, and it's a lot scarier to start your practice, I think, once you know how much work it actually takes to do it.
Absolutely.
So I don't know. I mean,
Absolutely.
That might be a little bit cavalier, but it's kind of good for me not to know everything.
That's all right. We like that here in Colorado. What connections do you still have to education?
I'm sorry?
What connections do you still have to education?
Oh, so I am an adjunct professor at CCA, the California College of Art. And my business partner, Jeff, obviously he's a full-time professor at the University of Nebraska at Lincoln. So we both have pretty strong ties to academia. And
you kind of touched on this briefly earlier, but if you had to kind of sum it up, what are the general aspirations that you have for your firm?
I'd say our general aspirations have less to do maybe with scale or type of project, but more with that we hope that the work that we do will always be challenging and engaging to us. You know, I think that both Jeff and I really enjoy the challenges that each project brings, and that we keep growing and developing our design ideas as a firm.
And the last question that I have for you, EB, is how do you get work without having a broad portfolio of experience when you first start out?
That is an excellent question. So I can speak from my own experience. When I started my practice, the way I'd gotten work was because I actually worked for landscape architects and not architects. A couple of projects came in the office where the clients were looking for architecture, and they asked Topher and Andy if they had any recommendations. So that's actually how I got my first project, which is the Palo Alto Pool House. It's still on our website. That was the first project commission I ever did. And so also I think, you know, it was just meeting people and letting everybody you ever met know that you had just started a practice and you were available. And I basically said yes to anything, to everything. Deck designs, stairs, front porches, like permit drawings, anything to, you know, to sort of just get experience under my belt.
Absolutely.
And meet people.
Sounds very familiar. Well, EB, I understand and I appreciate your busy schedule, and I just want to thank you so much for taking some time to speak with me today, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Adam.
Bye-bye.
Bye.